So for now, it's my pleasure to welcome Hermione Joye, who's the sector lead travel and vertical search APAC for Google, who's got her finger on the pulse of Asia's travel recovery. Please welcome Hermione. Over to you.
Thank you, Sehun. Hi, everyone. I hope you're feeling okay. I know what it's like to be presenting with COVID. I had the fortunate or unfortunate pleasure of doing that early in January from Australia. But thank you very much for all having me here today. It's a great pleasure. And how good is it to be back in person? That's great. I might start my presentation if we can. Just let me know when my slides come up. Oh, I think I own the presentation. That's really awkward. You know, at Google, we always have tech glitches, so that's pretty standard for us. Okay, so I have the pleasure to talk to you today about Asia's recovery. Do you know what? It is such a pleasure to finally talk about recovery instead of pandemics, endemics, and when it might happen. It's safe to say that I feel like screaming for joy at the top of my lungs to say recovery has finally arrived in our region, and more importantly, we truly believe that it's here to stay. Since the onset of the pandemic, the travel industry has suffered tremendously, and no one else, I don't believe, regionally has felt this painfully slow recovery. We have had so many false starts, and at some point I believe that many of us began to doubt if recovery could actually take place, and when it would be incredibly sluggish. But the good news is that these people were wrong. The doubters are wrong. Not only is domestic travel back in Southeast Asia and Australia, and it's back to pre-COVID levels, but international travel is now peaking. With This Is 9 today, I want to focus on international travel and talk about what's new. So what's driving the recovery? In short, we've all talked about it multiple times, but the easing of the restrictions, and thank you Thailand for making that Thai pass a little easier. I spent hours doing it this week. But the release of travel restrictions across Southeast Asia has meant that pent-up demand has finally converted to realised demand. People are no longer dreaming about travel. They get to take action, and they're doing it really fast, which is excellent news for everyone in the room and on virtual today, as it means we can start travelling. The better news is that because governments have eased these restrictions, it means that individuals are feeling safer about travelling more freely and are happy to travel internationally. So much like the Thai market, those high ADR clients are coming to fruition. Let's use just Singapore as an example over the last month. When Singapore dropped the regulations and restrictions, there was an increase in search query of 107% just 3 days post the announcement. 57% obviously had a few extra people in Singapore had a heads up, were searching the day before the announcement actually happened. I need to get on that WhatsApp. So if anyone's got that WhatsApp, I need to know. I'm coming for you, Julia. But it's good news all round. So what for everyone here is you need to focus on the international travel or the intra-regional travel. The other thing I wanted to talk about is that we all understand that there's been an incredible roller coaster during this pandemic. And there's been lockdowns and constant changes of restrictions. And many of you may be questioning, is this peak really real? Will we actually have a recovery? And it's understandable that you might be a little bit cautious about saying recovery is here to stay. Well, what we have learnt from our data that is people, travellers, have learnt to live with this virus. Vaccination rates are higher than they've ever been, and we've heard that a lot throughout today's speeches. And people are now demanding their freedoms and their livelihoods back. We see this very much through our own query data. So if we just take what has happened in Australia for an example, when the first COVID wave hit back in 2010, I was going to say 2010 because I feel like it's been that long. What is it? 2020, thank you, sorry. It's been a long 2 years. it took our search interest to recover to pre-pandemic levels 230 days. So that was the first wave of COVID. After Delta, it took 60 days. After Omicron, it took 7 days. And Australia is not an anomaly for this region. We see similar trends in Southeast Asia and India. The rebound of consumers and their intent to travel is coming back faster and faster. They feel safer, vaccination rates are harder, and things are becoming a little less frictionless. So as it pertains to what we're seeing in consumer, I thought I'd bring a story into today's presentation to give it a mix. What I wanted to say is the endemic traveller is really here to stay, but most importantly, the endemic and revenge traveller are sitting in Australia and Southeast Asia. These travellers have been depressed by lockdowns and they're eager to travel immediately. They're excited and ready to action. And if I think of my own experiences in the last 6 months, it's amazing to see how the airports, hotels, and also community experiences have changed. In September, I was one of the first movers. I went to Italy. When I went through the airports, there was less than 10% traffic. Cabins were empty. And also, I had some incredible deals at hotels because capacity was at 20%. I'm sorry for preying on it, but at least I travelled. Now, take me back to last week. I went to Australia. It was Easter. I thought I'd be fine. Incorrect. I got to Australia. The flights I wanted were fully booked. I'm talking every class. I couldn't actually get on any of the flights. I had to push out my holiday by 3 days. Poor me. But it shows how things have changed. Not to mention the fact that I was going to stay in Orange, which is a popular town outside New South Wales, fully booked. I had to find someone who did their first digital booking, so congratulations, they are moving, but it was 45 minutes from our destination. And also, the airport traffic was full, around 30 to 40%, and those amazing custom lines when you have 3 kids under 4, they were back. It's a good thing for the industry. But my point here is that the revenge traveller is sitting in the region, and we need to go after them and make their system experiences exceptional. And when they need to be seamless and they need to be digital. What we're seeing from our data is that Australia is leading the recovery. That's not actually a huge surprise because they did open up first and have worked on that frictionless experience besides the 6 apps, which I have to say I did agree. If they could just get, their governments in order, it would be fantastic for us Australians, but we'll leave that one aside. But also recovery is closely followed by Philippines and Indonesia. In fact, all of Southeast Asia is showing really healthy returns for outbound international recovery and also inbound. You may be wondering what that means for our region. It means 2 things. First of all, much more regional traffic and much more regional travel. And secondly, people are now open to long haul. In fact, the top 5 destinations, or 3, the top 3 destinations in March for outbound travel for Southeast Asia and Australia were Bali, London, and Singapore. So good news and congratulations on Singapore for getting back on that map because I know we want to be the hub. In terms of search interest, we've also translated to see this to translate into bookings in the industry. Thank you to Scoot and Campbell for sharing the data from Singapore's a great tourism event 2 weeks ago. But what we see here is how quickly the interest on search is converting to bookings. What I want to highlight here too is it's not just the interest converting quickly, but it's also the lead times converting quickly. So we've actually moved to a place where people are booking travel in under 60 days. Pre-pandemic, that was around 70 days or more. And that means something for brands across the regions because it means that you need to be moving fast, that consumers are researching and taking action, and you need to be present much more quickly along the process. The time is now. I wanted to jump, but I'm not that eloquent, so I decided just to visualize. Please understand that in APAC and Southeast Asia, the recovery phase is very much here and it's here to stay. Consumers are traveling and no longer with just that domestic focused. But let's be honest, we're not out of the woods yet. It's not all rose-colored glasses. And let me explain why in the next section. Actually, a lot of you have touched on it today, which is great because at least we're all agreeing on the themes we're seeing. The pandemic and the people in our region have rapidly come online. In fact, in Southeast Asia alone, we now have 440 million people online, and our internet penetration has moved to 72%. Further to this digital acceleration, it's resulted in a digital dependency. And Si-Hoon talked about it at her trip in Europe, but nowhere is that more true than Asia. There are very few moments that we experience now that don't have some type of digital engagement, particularly in Singapore. Between maps, payments, security check-ins, reviews, your entertainment, and also your social media and video, you are needing to have digital touch points to make your experience complete. As an industry, people on the ground and our customers are all using digital continuously. So if you want to win the hearts and minds of travelers, it's crucial to be digitally prepared. And I'm not just talking about media. I'm talking about platforms first and foremost, and then I'm talking about marketing organically, and I'm talking about your customer experience, and I'm also talking about training, and I'm talking of your staff. It is all incredibly important if you want to win the user or the traveler at the end. In terms of trends we're seeing from the consumers, what we see are three main things. Number one, they're all aspiring intent to travel, and it's really happening on the digital platform. We're seeing a lot of video content being consumed in the research phase, and very high-end travelers being there too, and they will move quickly off that to find the brands or the locations or consult on a social media platform to then talk to their friends about where they want to go. If you want to win the hearts and minds of consumers, you need to have a frictionless experience, one they will remember and speak positively about. And you also have to embrace their new the preferences. So in terms of aspiring travel intent of all sorts, what we're seeing is it's growing rapidly through the dreaming, planning, and booking phase. And the bulk of this is happening through digital platforms. In fact, you're seeing massive increases for terms such as Can I Travel Now? And that's just on this month, 40% up year on year. 230% of an increase in terms for such as where to travel to. People are actually coming to digital to find out what is the best time to travel and where they can travel and where to stay. So if you're not there, then they can't find you. Second, you want to minimize travel experience, the friction. I am the ultimate revenge traveler. I've done 8 trips since Italy, since we were first allowed out. And I can tell you what, the brand that makes a friction-free experience for me and the people that I've spoken is a brand that stays top of mind for my next booking. If you have, and this is why right now is so pivotal. We're also seeing this in terms of what is coming through in our search queries with over 1,000%, nearly 2,000% of increase in terms of requirements. People want to understand what's going on, and also 500% increase in travel insurance. I actually think travel insurance has been something that people have undervalued in the industry in the last 6 months. I know it's the number one question I get from my friends or community, where can I get travel insurance? And I would encourage you guys to partner with other providers to make sure that if you can't offer the service for the seamless experience, you can partner with people seamlessly, other industry players seamlessly, to make the seamless experience happen. I had the beautiful experience of going to Cambodia to Siem Reap, and I can tell you what, that was friction-free, and I have recommended it till I think people are like, don't want to hear about my Siem Reap stories anymore. But it was get off the flight, do an ART test, transit through. I had digital check-ins for temples. I had seamless experience all the way. I did payments at like tap and pay at little shops, and the entire economy was so happy and grateful to have tourists back, and it was just wonderful. And I recommend the providers, I recommend the tourist guides and the hotels and also the airlines because of this. So it really is important because people want to share their experiences and people want to have a great time. Lastly and crucially, you want to re-establish your brand offering and be top of mind to consumers when they think about your brand. We are actually seeing something quite significant take place as it pertains to traveling today in Southeast Asia. There is a huge increase for vacation rentals. To be honest, it has surprised me to see this come through because traditionally Australia and New Zealand was the home of vacation rentals, and it wasn't in the Asian traveller's mind to travel in a vacation rental format. They preferred hotels. But what we're seeing is that with the work and travel blurring, what was it, the bleisure happening, I like this, I'm going to use that word, with bleisure happening, people are looking for alternatives. We're also seeing different brands come out with alternatives. Mandarin Oriental Group, they are traditionally a luxury brand. And hotel focused, and now they've opened a whole vacation rentals arm. So again, it's about understanding the clients or the travelers' focus, and making sure you're touching on this. Both the Australian and the tourism Australian and Singapore representatives earlier today also spoke about the focus on wellness, and we're seeing a huge growth in wellness and also for luxury travels. People feel safer in a luxury environment. So if you cannot offer them a luxury travel experience, bring top of mind to them around what you can do from a safety perspective or to make their experience more comfortable. Because let's face it, not everyone's going to be able to afford luxury, and it's getting more expensive to travel because everyone's out there traveling. So they're going to have to look for alternatives, but you want to come to mind as an alternative, whether it's a sustainable angle or also a safety angle. There are a few different ways to pivot. You just need to know what your customers want and speak to them in a personal manner. Tailoring your messages and offering specific offerings to your travelers will create loyalty along with this seamless experience. I can't impress on you how important that first-party data is and will be to ensuring that you lock in your customers and you convert them right now when the moment is hot. So I did want to make a bit of a reference to the Oscars, but I decided that would not maybe land here given the recent time. So I wanted to say now is our Oscars, but instead I've just decided that we would focus on saying now is the time. It is a pivotal period for Southeast Asia and also for Australia in terms of owning the hearts and minds of these travelers and bringing in people who will be loyal and repeats. If we want our industry to recover, if we want to rebuild and accelerate, then we need to give the consumers what they want. Travel is now a milestone event. People treasure it. People are spending more. We heard that earlier. The numbers last year I looked at were about 5.2 average days, and from Australia I was hearing 14, and Singapore 8 days. People are spending much longer. That means they're spending more money. They're also wanting to travel in luxury. Unfortunately, it also means that their expectations are much higher. They want personalization and they demand a seamless digital experience. So really think about that as you're trying to convert these high value customers in the moment. The opportunity is here. We just need to be prepared to bring it on. So with that, I will say, are you ready? Let's recover together. Thank you.